Hi, I'm Keith West with CompanyBright.com, and we're here today with John Jantsch, who is a business blogger extraordinaire. He's on almost every list that I've seen of the top business bloggers out there. Also a noted speaker, an author of two best-selling books, Duct Marketing and TheReferralEngine.com. And today John is going to tell us something about his business and how he uses education in his marketing, and then also how other small businesses can use education as they go about marketing the business. So welcome, John.
Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. So please tell me the name of your business and just the brief part of what it is you do.
Well, sure. The company name is Duct Marketing, and that's DUCT Marketing. And actually, you in the introduction there referred to me as a blogger, and actually that's just a tool that I use. I would never call myself a blogger. Actually, I am a marketing consultant, and I teach marketing. And quite frankly, that tool just happens to be one of my favorites to use to do just what you talked about, provide education. I've actually owned my own small business for over 25 years. About 10 years ago, I found that I really enjoyed working with small business owners, but they were a little tough in the traditional marketing consulting model to make a living working with. So I determined what the world actually needed, or what, quite frankly, I needed, was to be able to walk in and say, here's my marketing system. Here's what we do. Here's what I do. Here's what you do. Here are the results we can expect. And by the way, here's what it's going to cost. And in effect, try to turn this idea of this, this unknown, vapor of marketing into an actual product. And that's really where I came up with the name, actually, Duct Marketing. And I chose the online tool, blogging and creating content, really just as a way to spread my message. I documented my whole system, turned it into a product that somebody could buy as a self-guided tool, and so really a lot of my initial efforts jumping online were really just to promote that overall marketing system. As many of the changes that have occurred over the last 5, 6, 7 years, that whole publishing aspect of my business, as it has for most businesses, has become a significant part of not only how we tell our story and spread our word, but build our expertise, our credibility, and our trust, which then, of course, turns into try, buy, repeat, and refer for our products and services.
So your product, then, is that something that somebody downloads? Is there any face-to-face for that? How does that work?
Well, I have a model that really supports just about any price point. You mentioned my books at the outset. Obviously, I think those are one of the best buys that people can make. $12.95, $14.95 for a couple hundred pages of what we're talking about today. But I also have a full marketing system that's broken up into modules, and we have. Years ago, I started with the 3-ring binder for that, but we have gone completely online. So each module, each lesson that I teach in the system is broken up into videos, to audios, to workbooks, to worksheets, and you kind of progress through it almost like a curriculum now. But I also have a network of independent marketing consultants that license all of my material, my brand, my programs. We call that program I just described, we call the Duct Marketing Catalyst. And so for that person that really feels or knows that the self-guided version is not really going to work for them, or they don't feel like they've got the time, or they want a level of expertise, they can actually engage one of my consultants to walk them through that program, help them build a marketing action plan based on the Duct Marketing system. And in some cases, also then further engage that consultant to project manage their marketing implementation. And many of the organizations that we work with have no kind of marketing professional, no VP of marketing, and it's typically the owner of the business, and maybe they've got a marketing assistant that does aspects, but they kind of bring our consultants in as their marketing executive, as well as using our materials. So there's really everything from, as I mentioned, the $12.95 book all the way through and in some cases, a $50,000 engagement with one of our consultants to really kind of be your outsourced marketing department.
Well, that's great. So it's small businesses, obviously. Is it any type of industry that it tends to work better for, or services, products? What?
Yeah, really the ones that actually listen and do what we say, that's the industry that it works the best for. Quite frankly, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've worked with just about every industry, and truly any industry that is willing to take strategy before tactics, to produce educational content, to lead generate in many ways, to build an entire marketing calendar, to create a lead conversion system. All the basic building blocks of our system. If they're willing to do those and do them consistently, it works for any industry.
So you say that they need to.
The size of business, actually, too.
Sure. So you say that they need to produce educational content just like you do. So you found that it works not only for you in like a digital delivery type of business predominantly, but for other types of more old-style industries as well.
Absolutely. And now they may not take the same model I do. I mean, I put out a weekly newsletter. I publish a blog post every day. I have a podcast. I mean, because it's my business, I teach people how to do these things. I, don't always look at what I do and say, well, gosh, I couldn't possibly do that much stuff. Like, I get paid to do this stuff, to produce content. For a lot of small businesses, it is really just one of the ways that they're going to generate search engine traffic. It's one of the ways they're going to build trust. It certainly can be part of their selling system. So it absolutely has become an expectation, really, first off, that anybody who wants to buy plumbing, wants to buy shoes, wants to buy legal services, is going to turn to the web, and they are going to put in whatever it is they're looking for, what challenge they're trying to solve, into a search engine. And even if somebody refers you, somebody says, you got to call Keith. He's the greatest. He'll take care of you. Well, they're still going to turn to the search engine and put Keith in to the search engine and find out a little more about you. And if they're not finding not only lots of information about you beyond your website, other people saying good things about you, a deeper sort of understanding of your expertise and how you do what you do and why you do what you do. If they're not finding that kind of content, it's a real trust eroder. In fact, in some cases, it's a red flag. And I think that so for a lot of people, this idea of creating content is maybe it started as a luxury for somebody that was good at that or liked doing that, but it's an essential element now because so much of this is intertwined with what we do online and offline.
Right. Well, we've had websites for, say, 15 years or so, but have you noticed in, let's say, the past 5 years, as far as I'm looking at it, seems like education is becoming even more predominant. What do you see as the changes, and what are the drivers of making it more effective than what it was in the beginning?
Well, I think it was always effective. I think the key was, did you get a great enough return maybe on your investment? But now that the world is essentially online, I mean, my 83-year-old father turns online and tries to find answers to things he's looking for. I mean, I think that what that's done is that's made the payoff for spending the time to produce content and how important it is that you do well in search. Those types of things and the fact that people want to share your content in places like Facebook and Twitter and just normal behavior now for most of our clients and prospects. And I think that's the real driver as far as why we have to produce this, because those folks want it. They expect it.
Sure. So somebody's sold on the need to produce content. How do you go about deciding what content to create?
Well, the very first thing is we talked about it at the outset. I mean, I still tell everybody today you need to have a blog, and it's not because somebody wants to sit down and get their morning cup of coffee and read your incredible thoughts every morning, but because people are, as I mentioned, turning by the millions to search engines to find answers to their problems and challenges and needs, and so a blogging platform, blogging software just happens to be one of the easiest tools to allow you to consistently produce and publish and syndicate lots of content. But in terms of how to get started, I mean, the easiest thing is to start writing, what are the important keywords for your business, phrases for your business. In other words, what are the types of things that people are typing into search engines when they want to find somebody that does what you do? And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, it's not the name of your business. They're not typing that into search engines. They're typing in, I can't get this to work. I can't get that to work. I need help with X. So you need to be writing about those things. Ask your customers, exactly what do they type into search engines when they're looking for a business like yours. Another great thing to start writing in terms of content production, because a lot of times people, one of the scariest things in the world for a lot of business owners is the blank screen or a blank sheet of paper. And a lot of times I just tell people, do your customers, do your prospects ever ask you any questions? And immediately light bulbs go on. In fact, one of the things we can do is fire up their email, and if they have a customer service person or if they have a salesperson, fire up that person's email, go look in their sent box, and I guarantee you there's gold in that sent box, because you've probably answered some of the same questions 3 dozen times in 3 different ways, and they're the types of things that you probably should be writing about, because if nothing else, you'll have the answers to those questions. But I had a large software company, a reseller one time, that said they just couldn't get any of their technical people. They wanted them all to blog. They couldn't get them to blog, and I did exactly what I just described there. We went and looked in all of their. They actually were able to look at all the customer service type of emails, and they were floored by the knowledge library that they had sitting there in their sent logs, because they had, in many cases when somebody asked them a direct question, it was very easy to write a response. But the idea that I'm going to sit down and write a blog post is daunting. So they found tens of thousands of words of blog content instantly.
Right. Something that you've kind of hinted at, and I've seen in my own estimation that a mistake made over and over, is who are you writing to? I mean, there's a lot of blogs out there that seem to be writing for the industry, and I sort of wonder if that's the best tactic.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, in the end, the only reason to write any of this content is so that somebody who has money and a need, for what you do, will read it and say, you know what, that person knows what they're talking about, or that person seems to have the exact answer for my problem, and so clearly, in fact, in many cases, the industry is irrelevant, other than maybe providing you a source of information that you might actually be able to disseminate to those prospects.
Right. Getting in a little bit deeper, how do you decide what level of user to write your content to, whether it's beginner or intermediate or advanced? And if somebody subscribes to your newsletter, for example, and they've read for a couple years, they don't need so much the basics, but how do you keep supplying the advanced user while not turning off somebody who just come in?
Well, it's always going to be a challenge, but I think you have to really have objectives. What is your newsletter meant to do? For a lot of organizations, what that newsletter should be is a way to start making sure that people are aware of you, that you provide great value, that they want to read it, they want to get it. Obviously, from that newsletter, from those people that start reading your newsletter, you want to give them opportunities to get more. So you want to have the online seminar for advanced users. You want to have the online seminar for beginner users. You want to start inviting your community into maybe a forum where they can start discussing issues with their peers. I mean, you have to really look at this content production a lot like a publisher might. That you're, it's not simply a matter of, okay, I've got a blog, I'm done. That you really need to start looking at, an editorial calendar for a year. What are all of the topics that I need to cover for a year? What are the chapters of my book? What are the ways I can reuse or repurpose my content? I can't tell you how often people have hired me to do an online seminar or an in-person. I do a lot of in-person workshops and keynotes, and in some cases the talk will require some research on my part. Will require me to go out and find some different avenues to some of the things I've talked about, and 9 times out of 10. You'll see that in 3 blog posts. That research, you shared in 3 blog posts, and I think that's another aspect of this whole content production that people really need to realize is an important part of it. When we were talking off air, you mentioned that it seems like I'm everywhere, that I do a lot of production. Well, a lot of that's because I've been doing it a long time and I'm passionate about it. But I'm also pretty good about reusing, repurpose, repackage content as well, because I think that's another issue that I think sometimes people get caught up in, I get caught up in it sometimes, is the idea that if I said something once, then everyone heard it. Well, I guarantee you, 1/10 of 1% of the people that needed to hear it heard it. So there's nothing wrong with coming up with 7 or 8 topics and drilling down deep and repeating your messages in those 7 or 8 topics that relate to your business. Don't think that you have to come up with something that is so innovative that nobody ever thought of before with every blog post.
Well, that's something that I confront. I mean, you sit down and write, and say, oh, well, somebody already wrote something sort of like this. What should I say? Would you say education is the primary focus of your marketing, and if not, or like what percentage is related to other things that you do?
I'd say yes, indeed, it is the primary focus. I mean, I really feel that particularly as my business has grown, my primary job, because I do have staff that's working on, some of maybe the more campaign oriented type of functions. So my primary job is to further sort of this brand that I've built that is about simple, effective, affordable, practical uses for all these things that are out there in marketing. And quite frankly, I mean, my job, I will tell you, and I think that for many business owners, this is a hard concept to grasp. But it is the secret. If you want to know the secret to any level of success that I've had, this is it. I adopted a very simple, very singular point of view about what marketing is, or in my case, how to effectively do what it is I do, and I don't vary from it. I talk about marketing as a system. If I share something, shame on me if I get away from things that are not practical, that are not simple, that are not doable, that you can take action on. And I have not wavered from that point of view for about 10 years, and so that's what's made me an overnight success.
Well, and I really appreciate that, because I think that a lot of success in, a lot of different fields is just about being systematic about things. I mean, I tend to look at things from the system view, and I think that that's something people, will grasp and appreciate. And also, I think, what comes through is you mentioned in a blog post several months ago about your desire, how you like working with small businesses, and that really struck a chord with me, because that's where I spend a lot of my time, and it's just the challenge that you seem to have mastered of how to actually sell to small businesses in a way that you can actually be successful with it.
Well, I think a lot of it is I am one. I've been one forever, and I think that I have the luxury of being my ideal customer.
That's great. So, is it difficult to come up with topics?
No. I mean, once you commit to this, what I'm doing. I mean, in fact, it's what the harder part for me is to turn off, my brain sometimes, because every radio show, every song, every conversation I have with people sometimes sparks blog content for me, just because I think it's like everything. Once you start thinking that way, you start hearing things differently.
Right. What do you view as the shelf life of your content? When you produce something, is it something that you intend to be used within a week and then kind of not anymore, or do you want to have a longer term view?
No, I would say the bulk of the content that I write, I don't cover news. The bulk of the content that I write about is in some ways evergreen, because I really think that no matter how much we talk about change in the last few years, there are some aspects of marketing that are fundamentally the same, and so I do like to hammer that. Part of my point of view in this idea of a system is I do like to hammer home those points that I've been making for 10 years. Having said that, a new tool crops up. I like to try to help people understand what's a practical way they could use this. And in some cases, some of that may have a shelf life. Telling somebody, back when I started talking about Twitter in 2006. Well, Twitter didn't have a user guide. There was no help whatsoever. It was basically just a very raw tool that somebody threw out there and said, "You guys figure out how to use it." And so, just basic how to tweet, kind of concept was very necessary. But obviously, we outgrew that pretty quickly.
Right. And so you've been kind of hitting around to it also, but you produce content, and then it's necessary to get it out in front of people. So,
yeah.
How much of the equation is the distribution?
Well, it's to me, it's and there will be some people that cringe at this comment. Some of the social media folks that treat it as a religion will cringe at this comment. That I think one of the primary uses or reasons to participate in social media is to amplify your content. Now, having said that, it better be good content. It better be, quality. It better be valuable. It better be educational stuff that people can benefit from. But I have, and I've written a blog post or two about this. I have a very specific, systematic way that I amplify, for instance, my blog content that I write every morning. And so when I hit publish, I spend about another 20 minutes maybe, or 15 minutes is all, because I have a pretty routine. But I spend another 15, 20 minutes putting that content out into some of the other places that I know people like to find and read their content.
Right. Now, of course, the point of producing this educational content is to eventually acquire a customer. So where do you draw the line, and do you sell in your content, and how do you go about working the marketing message with the educational message?
Well, there is a very logical path to it. I think the mistake some people make is that they try to make a leap. Hey, okay, you read our good content, now I'm going to sell you something. And there's a very logical path that you need to move people to. I talk about it as marketing hourglass. And the idea behind this path is that you want to create a way to logically move people through 7 stages of know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And that you have to create content specifically that creates awareness, content that builds trust, content that allows people to try you. Might be a webinar, for example. Might be an online, might be an in-person workshop. You have to create products that allow them, or content, I should say, that then moves to close them. You have to create content after you've created a customer, so that they have you make the experience a great one. You make sure that the education continues after they buy, and then you need to create content or content opportunities so that they can actually refer you. So there really are 6 or 7 types of content that need to be produced with very specific purposes in mind, and you use that content to effectively move people to the point where they want to purchase. I have this network of consultants that I mentioned, and it's no secret. It's published on our website. They, in the course of licensing my material, pay me about $25,000 over a 3-year period. That's what our program sells for, or becoming a part of our program and our training. Well, every single one of those people that plunks down what I think is a significant amount of money was a newsletter subscriber. Bought my book, attended one of my seminars. So the process of actually gently moving them through all of those steps in the hourglass is how, when it comes time for them to say yes, we don't sell them anything. We actually interview them and make sure they're a good fit for both of us, because they've already sold themselves.
One last question. One of the pushbacks that I hear from small business, they say, well, this stuff is great because you're in the internet world, and that's natural. I sell widgets just to people here in the local area. Can I really apply this? And the reason I ask you this question specifically is you've worked with a big range of businesses to apply these strategies. Could you just comment on how a local business selling to a local market might?
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is probably going back 8 or 9 years ago. I had a client that was a remodeling contractor, and at that time that was not an industry that you thought of when you thought online. I mean, they were, they were swinging hammers and jumping in trucks and going out and measuring up kitchens. Very local business. And I convinced them to not only go online in a big way, but to start blogging. Probably the first remodeling contractor in the country that was blogging. And they had a couple very distinct differentiators. They had an architect on staff. They had an interior decorator on staff. And so it wasn't actually the owner of the business that was doing much blogging. It was those people writing about trends in color and trends in design and appliances and the kinds of things that the people that were remodeling at this level, because they were also pretty high end, were going online and looking for them. And in a period of about a year, probably less than that, about 6 or 7 months, they went from really kind of middle of the pack, certainly non-existent online, to dominating, and they still dominate today. If you search for Kansas City remodeling contractor, Kansas City kitchen, anything that a person might search for, they're going to come up in the top 3 to 5 places on any kind of Google search. And their business they're the largest contractor in Kansas City, Missouri now, due in large part to the fact that they started blogging in 2004.
Well, that's great. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. And if anyone wants to receive more of John's wisdom, you can go to ducttapemarketing.com and sign up for the newsletter or RSS feed. I subscribe to both, and I encourage you to do the same thing. And if you want to find out about more topics of interest to small businesses, go to companybright.com. Thank you.